I still remember the sound of that phone ringing.
It was a Tuesday.
7 days after we moved into our new house. And the voice on the other end was a woman I had met exactly once. The woman who sold us the house. She said, "Don't tell your husband. Come alone." And then she hung up. I stood there in my kitchen, holding a phone that had gone silent, and my hands were shaking. Not because I was scared of her, but because deep down some part of me already knew. Something about this house was wrong. If you've ever had that feeling, that gut instinct that something isn't right but you can't explain why, then you already understand how I felt in that moment. And if you stay with me for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. All of it. The good, the terrifying, and the thing that changed my marriage forever. But first, let me back up. Because you need to understand how we got to this house in the first place. You need to understand what we were running from. How we got here. My name doesn't matter for this story. What matters is that 3 years ago, my husband Daniel and I were drowning. Not literally, financially, emotionally. In every way two people can drown without anyone else noticing. We'd been renting a tiny 2-bedroom apartment in a building where the pipes groaned all night, and the landlord raised our rent every single year, like clockwork. We had one daughter, Mia, who was 5 at the time. And every single month, I would sit at our kitchen table with a calculator, moving numbers around like puzzle pieces, trying to make rent, groceries, daycare, and gas money all fit into paychecks that never stretched far enough. You might be wondering how 2 working adults could struggle that much. Trust me, I asked myself that same question every night. Daniel worked construction. I worked as a receptionist at a dental office. Neither job paid badly, exactly, but neither paid well either. And in a city where rent kept climbing every single year, we were always one step behind. I remember nights where I would lie awake doing math in my head. Rent is due on the 1st. Car payment is due on the 5th. If Mia gets sick and needs medicine, we're short. If the car breaks down, we're short. If anything at all, goes wrong, we're short. That's not a life. That's survival. And I think that's when the dream started. The dream of owning a home. Not a mansion. Not anything fancy. Just 4 walls that were ours. A yard where Mia could play without a landlord complaining about the noise. A mortgage payment instead of rent, because at least with a mortgage, you're building something. For 2 years, we saved every dollar we could. I stopped buying anything for myself. Daniel picked up extra shifts on weekends. We ate the same 5 meals on rotation because they were cheap and filling. I sold jewelry I never wore. We sold an old car we didn't need. Every birthday, every holiday, we told our families, please no gifts. Just help us save. It was humbling. Honestly, it was humiliating some days. I remember standing in a grocery store, calculating whether I could afford the name brand pasta sauce, or if I needed the store brand, while a woman behind me was buying groceries without even glancing at the prices. I remember feeling this deep, quiet shame that I couldn't explain to anyone who hadn't lived it. But we kept going, because we had a goal. And I've learned that when you have a real goal, not a wish, but something you're actually working toward, you can survive almost anything. Finally, after 2 years of scraping and saving, we had just enough for a down payment on a small, older house on the edge of town. 3 bedrooms, a little backyard, a kitchen that needed updating but had good bones, as the realtor kept saying. The price was surprisingly low for the neighborhood. Almost too low. Looking back now, that should have been my first warning sign. But when you've been dreaming of something for 2 years, you don't question a gift. You just grab it. The seller was a woman named Carol. Mid-60s, soft-spoken, polite. She told us she was downsizing after her husband passed away. She said the house held a lot of memories, and she was ready to let someone else make new ones there. At the final walkthrough, she looked at Mia, who was spinning in circles in the empty living room, laughing, and something changed in Carol's face. Just for a second. It looked like grief. Or maybe fear. I remember thinking it was strange, but I told myself she was just emotional about selling her family home. That's normal, right? People get attached to houses. We closed on the house in the spring. I cried in the car afterward. Real tears, the kind that come from years of pressure finally releasing. Daniel held my hand and said, "We did it. We actually did it." For 7 days, we were the happiest we'd been in years. Then the phone rang. The call. It was around 6 p.m. Daniel was in the shower. Mia was watching cartoons in the living room. I was in the kitchen unpacking the last few boxes, trying to figure out where to put our mismatched dish towels, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer it. I'm glad I did, but also, some nights, I wish I hadn't. "Hello." "It's Carol," the voice said. "The house. Please, don't tell your husband I called. Come alone. Tomorrow, 10 in the morning, the coffee shop on 5th Street. It's important." And then, before I could even respond, she hung up. I stood there in my kitchen holding a silent phone, my heart pounding so loud I swear I could hear it in my ears. You have to understand, this wasn't a scam call. This wasn't some random telemarketer. This was the woman who had sold us our home, the house we had just spent every dollar we owned on. And she was telling me, in a voice that sounded almost frightened, not to tell my husband and to meet her alone. My mind went to the worst places immediately. Was the house structurally unsafe? Had she lied on the disclosure forms? Was there some kind of legal issue with the sale? Or, and this thought genuinely terrified me, was something dangerous about this house? Something she hadn't told us? I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to Daniel, staring at the ceiling of our new bedroom, listening to him breathe steadily beside me, and I said nothing. For the first time in our marriage, I was keeping a secret from him, and it made me feel sick. You might be wondering why I didn't just tell him right away. Honestly, I've asked myself that too. I think part of me was scared that if I said it out loud, it would become real. And part of me, and this is hard to admit, part of me was afraid that whatever Carol had to say might be about something Daniel had done. Some hidden debt, some hidden secret. I didn't know, and not knowing was eating me alive. The next morning, I told Daniel I had a doctor's appointment. Another lie. I dropped Mia at daycare and drove to that coffee shop with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Carol was already there when I arrived, sitting in the corner booth, an untouched cup of coffee in front of her, looking smaller than I remembered. Older, somehow, even though it had only been a week. I sat down across from her and said, "What is this about? You're scaring me." She took a long breath, and then she told me something I never, ever expected. The truth about the house. Carol said, "I need to tell you something about the house. Something I should have told you before you bought it. I know I should have, but I was desperate and I'm sorry." My stomach dropped. She explained that her husband hadn't just passed away peacefully, like she'd told us during the sale. He had died in that house, in significant debt, after a business venture failed years earlier. And the house we had just bought, had a second, unrecorded lien on it from a private lender her husband had borrowed from before he died. A lender who was not the kind of person you wanted showing up at your door. She said that lender had recently found out the house had been sold, and he believed some of that money was owed to him from the sale proceeds. Money Carol didn't actually have because she'd used most of it to pay off her husband's medical debts. "He's been calling me," she said, her voice shaking, "threatening me. And I think he might come to the house. Looking for me, or looking for money. I didn't want to scare you and your husband, but I couldn't let you not know. You have a little girl. I saw her at the walkthrough. I couldn't live with myself if something happened, and I never warned you." I sat there frozen. Every worst-case scenario I had imagined the night before hadn't come close to this. I asked her why she hadn't just told us this from the start, during the actual sale, when it legally should have been disclosed. She started crying. She said she'd been so afraid of the sale falling through, afraid of losing the only chance she had to pay off her husband's debts and start over somewhere safe, that she convinced herself it would be fine, that the lender wouldn't actually come after new owners, that she was just being paranoid. But the calls had gotten worse, and her conscience had gotten the better of her. "I'm not asking you for anything," she said. "I just needed you to know. Please be careful. And please, if anyone comes around asking about money owed on that house, don't engage. Call the police." I drove home that day in a daze. I don't even remember most of the drive. I just remember pulling into our driveway, looking up at the house, our house, the one we had sacrificed everything for, and feeling this cold, sinking dread replace the joy I'd felt just days before. Telling Daniel. That night, after Mia went to bed, I told Daniel everything. I couldn't carry it alone anymore. I was terrified he'd be angry that I'd kept it from him for even a day, angry that I'd gone alone, angry that I hadn't told him the second Carol called. Instead, he just held my hand across the table and listened. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then, he said something I'll never forget. He said, "We didn't survive everything we survived to be scared out of the one thing we finally got right." We decided, together, that we needed real answers, not fear, not rumors, but facts. The next morning, we went to a real estate attorney. We learned that because the lien wasn't properly recorded or disclosed during the sale, we were actually protected. The title insurance we'd purchased, something our realtor had encouraged almost as an afterthought, covered exactly this kind of situation. Any claim against the property from an undisclosed lien would fall on the title insurance company to resolve, not on us personally. I can't describe the relief. It was like being underwater for days and finally breaking the surface. But we still had a real, human problem. A man who believed he was owed money, who might show up at our home. So we did the responsible thing. We contacted the local police non-emergency line and explained the situation. We changed our locks. Again, extra precaution. We got a video doorbell. And we documented everything Carol had told us, in writing, in case we ever needed it. For the next few weeks, I won't lie to you, I was jumpy. Every unfamiliar car on our street made my heart race. Every knock at the door made me check the camera before opening it. Mia noticed I was different, and being a smart little 5-year-old, she asked me one night, "Mommy, why do you keep looking out the window?" I didn't have a good answer for her. I just told her I liked our new street. The turning point. About a month after that coffee shop meeting, there was a knock at our door in the middle of the afternoon. Daniel was at work. I was home with Mia. My heart nearly stopped. I looked at the camera before answering. It wasn't a threatening man. It was Carol. She looked different this time, lighter, somehow. She told me she'd gone to the police herself after our conversation, filed a report about the lender's threats, and with the help of a lawyer, had gotten the situation formally resolved. The lender, it turned out, had no actual legal claim once everything was reviewed. He'd been trying to intimidate a grieving widow into paying him money she didn't legally owe. Carol had finally stood up for herself, and she wanted to thank me for how we'd handled everything. She said most people, if they'd found out what she hadn't disclosed, would have sued her, gone to the media, made her life even harder than it already was. Instead, we'd been afraid, yes, but we'd also been fair. We gave her the chance to make it right. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small amount of money. Money she said she wanted us to have for the stress she'd caused us, even though we told her it wasn't necessary. I want to be honest with you here, because this isn't a fairy tale. That month was genuinely one of the most frightening periods of my life. There were nights I barely slept. There were arguments between Daniel and me, not because he was upset with me, but because fear makes people snap at each other sometimes, even when they love each other. We were short with each other. We were exhausted. Buying that house was supposed to be the end of our struggle, and instead, it felt like the beginning of a new one. But here's what I realized, somewhere in the middle of all that fear. The struggle before, the years of counting pennies, of feeling ashamed in grocery store lines, of lying awake doing math we couldn't make work, that struggle had taught us how to face hard things together instead of running from them. If this had happened to us 5 years earlier, before we'd been through everything we'd been through, I honestly don't know if our marriage would have survived it. The fear, the secrecy, even just for that one day I didn't tell him, it could have broken us. But it didn't. Because somewhere in those years of struggling to save for this house, Daniel and I had learned how to be a team. Real partners. Not just two people sharing rent. Where we are now. It's been almost 2 years since that phone call. We're still in that house. Mia is 7 now, and she has an entire garden bed in the backyard that's technically hers. She grows tomatoes that never quite ripen right, but she's so proud of them anyway. Carol, and I still talk sometimes. Not often, but every few months, she'll send a text just to check in. I think, in a strange way, that whole ordeal connected us. She was a woman who made a mistake out of desperation and fear, and instead of that mistake destroying two families, it somehow brought us together in this unexpected way. I think about that phone call a lot. Don't tell your husband. Come alone. At the time, it felt like the beginning of the worst chapter of my life. And in some ways, it was one of the hardest months we've ever gone through. But looking back now, I think it actually taught me something important. Secrets, even ones that feel necessary in the moment, have a way of poisoning things if you hold on to them too long. The second I told Daniel the truth, even though I was terrified he'd be angry, everything got lighter. We faced it together instead of me carrying it alone. If you're going through something hard right now, whether it's a financial struggle, a scary secret, a situation you don't know how to handle, I want you to hear this. You don't have to carry it by yourself. The people who truly love you don't want you protecting them from hard truths. They want to stand next to you while you face them. We spent 2 years sacrificing everything for that house. And for one terrifying month, I thought we might lose everything we'd worked for. But we didn't. Because in the end, it was never really about the house. It was about learning that Daniel and I could face anything as long as we faced it honestly and together. If this story resonated with you in any way, if you've ever had to fight for something you weren't sure you'd get to keep, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. I read every single one. And if you want more real-life stories like this one, hit subscribe because I've got a lot more to share. Thank you for sitting with me through this one. I'll see you in the next video.